special edition.
Welcome back. Here with us on Times Now. Viewers, US President Donald Trump has declared that Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife have been captured and flown out of Venezuela. This after US carried out large-scale airstrikes inside Venezuela. He posted on Truth Social he is soon likely to address a press conference. Now let's tell you what happened before Trump's statement. Multiple explosions were heard in the capital, Caracas, and other parts of the country in the early hours today. Many buildings were seen on fire. Venezuela declared a state of national emergency, calling on people to mobilize to defeat this imperialist aggression. The Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, has banned all US commercial flights in Venezuelan airspace. But why has this happened? Well, US has always accused Maduro of leading an international drug trafficking organization. Last year in July, US even announced a $50 million reward for information leading to Maduro's arrest. Then in November, he had given Maduro an ultimatum as well. Maduro had accused US of wanting to control Venezuelan oil reserves. Then, US Attorney General Pam Bondi has said that Maduro and his wife have been indicted in New York, and the couple will soon face full wrath of American justice on American soil in American courts. Now, many in Venezuela say they wanted US to do something, but didn't expect the president and the first lady getting kidnapped like this. It has come as a shock for Venezuelans for sure. Now, here's how the world has reacted. Russia has condemned the airstrikes. Colombian president spoke about the need to respect international law and how protection of life and human dignity must prevail over any form of armed confrontation. Cuba condemned it, calling it a criminal attack. Iran also condemned it. Italian Prime Minister said she's closely monitoring the situation. Now, the question is, what happens next? We'll get to hear about America's plan from Trump in just a few minutes from now. But ahead of that, US Vice President J.D. Vance has reacted. On X, he has written, Maduro is the newest person to find out that President Trump means what he says. But it seems no further action is likely against Venezuela. Sample this reaction from Republican US Senator Mike Lee. He claims US Secretary of State Marco Rubio told him that Venezuelan president was arrested by US forces to stand trial on criminal charges in the United States. Amidst all of this, a picture of Venezuelan president in American custody is going viral. Times Now can't vouch for the authenticity of this picture, but Trump has said in a statement that Maduro and his wife are aboard a US warship and will face prosecution in New York. Now, viewers, Venezuela is world's biggest oil holder. It has 303 billion barrels worth of crude. Now, this is more than Saudi Arabia, Iran, as well as Iraq. So is the idea to control Venezuela and its oil reserves, or just to punish Maduro? That's something that we are going to be discussing with our guests. Before I go across to our guests, we have some breaking inputs coming in. United Nations Secretary General, in fact, spokesperson, has issued a statement on Venezuela. It states that the Secretary General is deeply alarmed by the recent escalation in Venezuela, culminating with today's US military action in the country, which has potential worrying implications for the region, independently of the situation in Venezuela. These developments constitute a dangerous precedent. The Secretary General continues to emphasize the importance of full respect by all of international law, including the UN Charter. Let me now welcome my guests who are joining us here on this particular story. We have Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow ORF, Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, Jeffrey Gunter, former US Ambassador. We also have with us Ray Locker, who is a journalist and an author. Good evening to all of you. Thank you very much for joining us here on this discussion. Ray Locker, let's start the discussion with you. What's happening? What is Trump really up to? Is it just to punish Maduro, or is it actually to take control of Venezuela's energy crude reserves?
Well, he said a number of things, including that he wants control of Venezuela's oil, that somehow Venezuela stole it from us. I'm not really sure what that means. And basically, he says whatever he wants, whenever he wants. So it's hard to tell what this really means. Obviously, few people are going to mourn Maduro's departure from Venezuela. He's been a terrible president. He's looted the country. He's stolen elections. I mean, so in that regard, you can't say, oh, I wish Nicolas Maduro was still president of Venezuela. But this goes against international law. We didn't have any kind of congressional approval of this attack. He says it's all about drugs, and we're going to try Maduro for drug trafficking. Well, we just pardoned the former Honduran president who was convicted of drug trafficking. So there's not a lot of consistency here. And I think this is a situation we've opened the Pandora's box. We've taken away somebody who was in control of the country, no matter how badly he was in control. And we don't know what's going to happen next.
Well, nobody knows what's going to happen next. But Jeffrey Gunter, what's your reading of the entire situation? I mean, it's clear that people were unhappy with Maduro. Some journalists have also told us that there were celebrations. They wanted America to do something, but they didn't really expect him to kidnap the president and the wife in the manner he did. But what about the rules and regulations that the world is supposed to follow?
The reality is this is a narco-terrorist state that is a threat to the United States that has been eliminated without any loss of American life. It's brilliant. The people of Venezuela will be celebrating in the street. This is a terrible dictator, no different from all the thugs that we've seen around the world. And the big message is there's no surprise what's going to happen. This individual, Maduro, will be brought to justice. There's no mystery here. And we will start to see democracy in Venezuela, and all of the wealth and everything that Venezuela deserves and had before Maduro will go back to the people, and they will become part of the international community. It's brilliant. So far, there's no loss of American life, but I can tell you, I know exactly Maduro and his wife are going. They're at the USS Iwo Jima, and after that, they will head and see swift justice, because that's what our Attorney General, Pam Bondi, said is going to happen. There's no mystery here. There's nothing. It's going to happen, and he will be brought to justice, and it's putting America first, and it's putting the people of Venezuela first. So I see it extremely different from your previous commentator on your esteemed panel.
Sushant Sareen, he's clearly putting America first. You heard the commentary by both the gentlemen. But what is your assessment? I mean, is this the way to really deal with a situation like this? What about the rules of international law? I mean, then nobody is going to really follow anything at all. Why do we have organizations like United Nations, etc.? Why do we have any rules at all?
Okay, United Nations exists to give bureaucrats a good living, pension in dollars, and it really doesn't do anything. Let's face it, it's a good forum where people can come and talk. Rule of law, rules-based global order, all of that is a whole lot of hogwash. There is only one law and one rule in international relations. If you have the power and you can exercise it, that is the rule. You make the rules, you exercise it. This is exactly what the Americans have done, and everything else, that they'll bring democracy to Venezuela. They brought democracy to Iraq. Remember? Saddam wasn't a very popular guy. And what happened in Iraq after that? How many hundreds of thousands of people were butchered out there and killed out there? That country has still not recovered properly. They tried to bring democracy in Libya. What has happened out there? There's a civil war going on in Libya. There's a 15-year civil war in Syria where they tried to bring democracy. And what happened out there? Over 1 million people died. Half the country has been devastated. But yeah, this is the American version of bringing democracy to the rest of the world. I don't think the rest of the world wants it. Was Maduro a good guy? Certainly not. Was he somebody you look forward to? Absolutely not. He was a horrible fellow. But that decision was for the Venezuelans how to remove him. If the Americans have taken upon themselves that they will remove every third-rate dictator in the world, then how come somebody on our western border is the American president's favorite field marshal, who has stolen an election, captured a government, imposed a virtual martial law in that country, where dissidents are sentenced to life because they put up YouTube videos? A country like that is a favorite country of the Americans. Out there, they don't want democracy. Out there, they don't want human rights. Where the Baloch are butchered, the Americans have no compunctions out there. So cut out this nonsense about bringing democracy and stuff like that, and cut out this nonsense about, international law. The Americans did what they did because they could do it, and they think they can get away with it, and they probably are right. Second, and more importantly, look, this is part of, and to that extent, I agree that this is probably America first, whatever that means. But this means that the Americans have clearly laid out in their national security strategy that they will dominate in their own hemisphere. They will not let any other big power come and play a role out there. So the Chinese are going to be kicked out of this region, the entire America's region, number one. Number two, they want to capture the oil simply because, they can feed their own refineries, and they can deny that oil to other competitors like the Chinese in particular. So, and of course, finally, they impose their political influence in that region. And all this nonsense about this was a narco state, this is the typical Wild West habit of give a dog a bad name and hang him. That's what they've done. And in any case, if you're talking about law, on what basis have you invaded another country and kidnapped a president to take them and try them in an American court?
Yes.
Under what international law, if at all there is something like that, have you been able to do it? So this is a naked use of power and force. And the Americans can do it, and they've done it.
Because they think, like you said, because they think they can get away with it. Interesting views, Ashok Sajjanhar, sir. Now, taking it forward, is it actually about restoring democracy? Is it actually about punishing somebody who is, deeply involved in narco-terrorism, etc., or actually an attempt to capture the energy space? Is Trump now going to stop? Is this entire operation going to stop with this kidnapping and the trial of Maduro? Or do you think American forces are now going to penetrate deeper into Venezuela?
You see, thank you very much, Hina, for having me on the show. From all evidence that is available, very little of it so far, it does appear that in Venezuela, a government is going to be installed which is to the liking of the United States. That is the whole plan that was hatched right from the beginning. That is what Nicolas Maduro also himself said, and many others also around the world said, that this was a program of regime change. It had nothing really, meaning this was, narco-terrorism, etc. That was a very convenient rationalization which was used to bring him out. And, all these bombings of the shipping that was done on the high seas, there's not a shred of evidence, at least to my information, that was made available. It is just that the Americans said that they were transporting drugs from here to there. There has been no evidence that has been advanced. That having been said, whatever might have been the problems, there are a large number of leaders in the world who steal elections. Nicolas Maduro was not the first one. He's not going to be the last one. There are very many leaders who are not abiding, they are not providing good standard of living, good economy, good law and order, etc. in the world. There are many of them. Meaning, why has this person there? You see it in Colombia. Colombia is there. Are they not? Venezuela was being, if there was drugs coming, this was being used basically as a transit route. But as far as the drug cartels are concerned, there are many other countries. Of course, they will also be shaking in their boots as to what is going to happen to them. But, Hina, let me come to this, meaning I quite agree that, as far as international law is concerned, it has been hugely, its value has come down, it has been depreciated. But how will the countries, the West as such, and the United States is the paramount leader of all those, when they charge Russia that you have broken the Charter of the United Nations, you have violated the territorial integrity and sovereignty of a country, of a sovereign country, and you have gone in that, and that is something that cannot be tolerated. How can the same thing be tolerated when the United States does it? So, meaning it is doublespeak, it is hypocrisy, and this is not going to stand them in good stead. Number two, what is the message that you are sending? This is a very convenient precedent that if Mr. Trump can go in and dislodge that government, capture that person, what stops China from going into Taiwan? And Taiwan, they will say, this is not even another country. It is not even a sovereign state that has been recognized by the United Nations.
Right.
So we have full right. If Russia can do it, if the United States can do it, what stops China from going there?
Well, absolutely.
So,
tomorrow, all big countries will start doing something like this. And, Sushant Sareen wants to come in. But before that, I want to quickly read out the latest update that we've got for our viewers. First reaction from Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado on what has happened in Venezuela. And she has said the hour of freedom has arrived. Sushant Sareen.
Okay, just three very quick points I wanted to make as a rebuttal, and I'm sure people like Ambassador Gunter will probably push back on what I'm going to say. One, on what Ambassador Sajjan said.
I would never push back on you.
What stops China? What stops China is very simple. The Chinese are not very confident as of now whether they can simply take over Taiwan, and what the consequences of that takeover will be. The day they are sure, they will do it. They are not going to look for American permission for doing it because they will exercise might as right. Second, on this whole business of drugs coming in from Venezuela and this drug cartel out there, I just wanted to remind Ambassador Gunter that, the largest number of drugs and the biggest epidemic of drugs in America today is coming from China, the entire fentanyl crisis. I would imagine that you would probably be going and sending a Delta force into Beijing to capture Xi Jinping and his wife and bringing them and trying them in a New York court. And finally, on this whole business that there's a lot of celebration on the streets. Look, even in America for that matter, Donald Trump won an election with 52% of the vote or 51% of the vote. There were 48 or 49% of the people who did not like him, did not want him to win. If supposing he was to go tomorrow, there would be celebrations on some streets and some people, and you can shoot that and say that, people are really celebrating that Donald Trump is no longer there. I don't think this is a logic which really stands to any kind of reason.
Ambassador Gunter, please respond. And also, democracy means people of a country decide, not America.
Well, the reality is a narco-terrorist who is dominating and killing his people. Freedom is being released today in Venezuela, and that's why a Nobel Prize winner just declared that. Number two, you guys love, especially academics and people in their high ivory towers, love to dismiss the suffering that individuals suffer every day, and that same suffering happens in America. We have hundreds of thousands of people dying of fentanyl in America. And let there be no misunderstanding. The raw products come from China, but they are assembled and put together in South America, and that is the threat to America. And that's why we're blowing up boats in international waters. These individuals have been designated as narco-terrorists, and that designation gives America the right and the legal ability to protect its borders and to stop these monsters. This is not about oil. This is about safety and security for America and freeing the Venezuelan people. And the ivory tower approach that so many of my great, brilliant, and esteemed panelists are espousing no longer carries weight in the great Trump administration and just look at all the great things he's doing around the world. Well, you guys need to be more empathetic for everyday people who are living in the terrible lives that we see under Maduro, and get out of your ivory towers and really stick up for the people of Venezuela.
So Shant Sareen wants to respond, then Ambassador Sajjanhar, very quickly.
No, I thought the boats that were being taken out by American weaponry were carrying cocaine and not fentanyl. But I've been just informed that they were attacking fentanyl shipments to Venezuela, which I find kind of strange. But why don't you go after the source of the raw material, where the raw material is coming from? I think you should send in a Delta Force and save the Chinese from the oppression of the Communist Party of China.
And you guys should run into Pakistan as well.
Xi Jinping and bring him to the United States. I think you should do that, sir.
Okay.
I think we should all support you in doing that.
Ambassador Sajjanhar.
You know, if Mr. Gunther, he wants to be empathetic to the people, ordinary people, then you should look at, when you impose 25% additional tariffs on Indian products for importing oil from Russia. You don't do that when, China is a bigger importer of oil from Russia. So, and if empathy is something that you're talking about, then the job losses that take place in India, you have to be empathetic towards that also. There is no rationale whatsoever. There is no narco-terrorism in this case. There is only the peak of the president who demands, who maintains that he was responsible for bringing peace to the conflict between India and Pakistan. Nothing of that sort happened. And since he's not able to get that, this is on a direct, on a related tangential point. But the point here is, you say there'll be celebrations on the streets of Venezuela. We have not seen any celebration. We have seen only bomb blasts there. It's been now, I'm sure it is well into noon. The whole place seems to be closed. There are no celebrations on the street. So I don't know when the celebrations are going to come. This is something when Americans moved into Iraq, and you said we are going to be welcomed there by flowers and chocolates. Nothing of that sort happened. So I think all these celebrations and flowers and chocolates are in your own imagination, are in your own dreams. They are not reality on the ground.
Okay, Ray Locker. Now, Balochistan is suffering, but Trump is investing in minerals there.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of inconsistency with this administration's policies. I mean, obviously, there aren't a whole lot of people who feel sad that Nicolas Maduro is gone. And I think Venezuela will probably be better off for it in the long run. But there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of thinking about what happens next. And, I think you have to think about that. You have to think about what the overall message is that you're sending to the rest of the world. It seems inconsistent. And you have to think about what happens after we get rid of this guy that most people don't like. And we saw it happen in Iraq. We got rid of Saddam Hussein, a terrible tyrant, no doubt. But there's been almost 25 years of chaos in Iraq, finally getting it back together. But we lost a lot of lives there. It's caused a lot of instability in the region. And so there's a lot more at play than just one act of getting rid of a bad guy, sending him off to wherever to be tried. And I don't think we know a lot more about what's going to happen.
Well, perhaps in just a few minutes from now, we will get to know what is the real plan of US President Donald Trump. His press conference was supposed to happen at around 9:30 IST, but I think it's getting a bit delayed. We'll, of course, be keeping a close eye on the developments. For now, thank you very much, all of you, gentlemen, for joining us here on this debate.